Good morning, everyone. Dan Bates, President and CEO, Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we are glad you could join us this morning for coffee and conversation. It looks like we have a double whammy today with our guest speakers. We have Matt and Shawn from BCRTA, and I think you're going to be impressed and amazed with what they're doing and what they're planning to do in the future. We will get back to them in a little bit and let them introduce themselves and get started. But first of all, let's talk about the protocol. This is a Zoom meeting. I'm sure that the speakers will not mind if you interrupt them with questions. If you're on Facebook Live, which is our largest audience, type in your question and Laura will get that answered for you directly from the speakers. This will also be on YouTube, our YouTube channel once this recording is over, so you can refer to it or share it with other people if you would like. So with that being said, you know who I am, you know who our speakers are going to be, and now we're going to turn it over to Jason to do self-introduction so we know who all of you are.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jason Michael Miller. I'm Director of Membership and Engagement for the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. We are so excited you could join us today. I'm going to go down the list. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laura Merrill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber. Glad to have you all here today.
Yeah. Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie McKnight. I'm with BCRTA, and I'm going to have to put out a little early, but I wanted to catch as much as I can this morning.
Next, we have Scott.
Scott Stevens from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Butler County.
Next, we have Cindy.
Hi, good morning. It's Cindy Keitel from Keitel Business Coaching.
After that, we have Levi.
Good morning, everyone. Levi Grimm, Director of G Food, Student-Powered Food Recovery in Hamilton.
Followed by Chris.
Chris Cardux with Via Media.
We have Nancy.
Good morning. I'm Nancy O'Neill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
We have Gina. I think we have Gina.
We do.
Awesome. Good morning.
In my pajamas still.
And we also have Tiffany Grubb from the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, our Director of Marketing. She is also on the call as well. And it looks like we have Tracy. Tracy, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. Tracy Stivers. I'm with BCW Workforce. We offer workforce solutions for businesses and job seekers alike.
Awesome. And Laura, did you introduce yourself?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Okay. So I think that we've introduced everybody on the screen. If I have not, please raise your hand. At this time, I'm going to pass it over to Shawn and Matt. And keep in mind, we are going to be keeping track of it if there are any questions in the chat on Zoom or Facebook as well. So feel free to stop and pause and ask for questions. But at this time, you can take it away.
Matt, you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you to the Chamber for having us. My name is Matt Dutkevicz. I'm the Executive Director here at the Butler County Regional Transit Authority.
And good morning, I'm Shawn Cowan. I think I know quite a few people on this call. I'm the Director of Customer Care and Public Engagement, and I'm going to be the primary presenter today. But, you know, Matt's here because he can answer all the really hard questions. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. Like Jason said, this is a casual conversation. Any questions you have, just jump in and ask them. That's what we're here to do, and we want to be able to share as much information with you as possible. Let me know the favorite question. Can everybody see my screen? Great.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yes,
good.
we are. But now I need to see it. There. Okay, hold on. My apologies. You guys can see it and I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, once again, good morning. The title of our presentation today is State of Public Transit here in Butler County RTA. We have an agenda. The first thing we're going to talk about is who is BCRTA, because we have found there's quite a few people that are not aware of what we do and who we serve. We're going to talk about our mission and our services, our organizational impact, major projects, and then we're going to go into funding and forecasts. So the Butler County Regional Transit Authority is made up of a nine-member board of trustees, and all of our board of trustees are appointed by the Butler County Commissioners. So this is our current board, and then we have our executive leadership staff on here also. The background for Butler County RTA is we were established in 1994 by the Butler County Commissioners, and we started providing services in 1999. And last year, some of you might be aware, but we did celebrate our 30th anniversary, which was a very exciting milestone for us. The Butler County RTA is the designated recipient by the Governor of Ohio to receive U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Transit Administration, that's a little bit of a mouthful, grant in Butler County, Ohio. So we operate and bring those FTA dollars here to the Butler County. Our mission is to support Butler County's quality of life and economic development through public transportation solutions. We offer several services. So we'll talk a little bit, touch on these, and please let me know if you have any questions. But our first services are fixed routes, and I always say the fixed routes are what people think of when you think of any public transportation, how they operate. We run the same routes, we go to the same places. You have to walk to a bus stop to get on the bus. You have to wait to a bus stop to get off of the bus, and we run same time, same places every day on a fixed schedule. We have we run 3 regional routes, here throughout Hamilton, the R1, the R3, and the R6. And then we have our Oxford routes. And then we also operate the Middletown Transit System, and there's 4 fixed routes that run through Middletown. We have a newer service that was launched last January, which is our Cincy Link, and that is our connector from Butler County to downtown Cincinnati. Some of you might have seen those giant buses roaming around. You can't miss them. We also offer, we call it BGO, but it's similar, I would say, to like an Uber or a Lyft. It is a curb-to-curb service where an individual can call up. It's open to the general public and book a trip anywhere in Butler County, and we only charge $5 each way. I think that's the one service that most people are least familiar with when we're out educating. Like I said, that is a county-wide service. So anywhere in Butler County, open to the general public, can call in, book a ride, $5. And then we also offer B-Care, which is our ADA paratransit services for individuals with disabilities. So we're going to talk a little bit about funding, but we'll start here with this, is that we have a lot of partners to be able to make this system work. We do operate, we have a contract with Miami University, and so we do operate all of the routes that run up at the university. Although it is paid for by the university, it is open to the public to ride. So Oxford residents, anybody in the area can hop off and on our buses. All of our fixed routes are free of charge, and they're open to the public. Like I mentioned before, we currently operate the Middletown Transit stations or system for them. Right now, that system is dictated by their city council. They pick the routes, the times, and we just operate the system for them. We also have a partnership with the Butler County Veterans Service Commission. So we get veterans to medical appointments. And then we also, like I said, we get money from the Federal Transit Administration. We do get some City of Hamilton block grant and Butler County money block grants in support of our fixed routes and our job connectors. We also partner with get funding through OKI, which is our Regional Council of Governments. And then we're part of a system called NeoRide, which we do a lot of joint grant opportunities with them. Again, it takes a lot to run a transit system. We have many partners that we rely on. We work very closely with Cincinnati Metro. There's a lot of regional projects coming up that we're working on collaboratively together to, be able to cross borders easier, making regional connectivity seamless. So there's lots of things in the pipeline with that. We're part of the Ohio Public Transit Administration. We rely heavily on them. They're our primary Ohio lobbying organization. We're also part of APTA, which is the American Public Transportation. And again, we work with TANK and other agencies throughout Ohio to assist us with our services. What is BCRTA's impact on Butler County? So BCRTA, directly and indirectly, from 2023 to 2033, this is over a 10-year period. This was a study done through a contracted company called Kimley Horn, who looked at our entire service. It looked at our fixed routes. It looked at our economic impact. It looked at our current, how we can grow our facilities. It was an overall arching study that we did. And although I think this number is a little low and has changed, but directly and indirectly, we create 1,375 jobs. Maybe there we go. Over the course of 10 years, 51.4 million goes back into the economy, earnings supported by BCRTA in Butler County. So this surprises a lot of people. This is our total rides by year. Most public transit companies are still talking about numbers pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic. So we always go back to the 2018, 2019, what ridership looked like. As you can see here in 2019, we were at 840,000 rides. Obviously, it's very, apparent when COVID hit and the pandemic and when things shut down. And as you can see, we have slowly inched our way back up. And now we are exceeding ridership post-pandemic, which a lot of transit agencies cannot say that. So we're very proud of that number. So we provided last year almost 850,000 rides for residents of Butler County. Another metric that we track is workforce and how are people getting to work and how people are traveling when they use our services. So this metric is from our BIGO because that's the only one that we can track. And so rides to work and job training. So 23, almost 24,000 jobs last year were provided for people to get to work and to go to job training through our BIGO. That accounts for 43% of the rides requested. If you were to draw a circle around all of our fixed routes, public transit in Butler County has access to almost 21,000 jobs available via public transit. Our BIGO is a very popular service. It is a first come, first serve. Like I said, it's open to the general public. And 14% of the trip requests we get, we're not able to accommodate. So it says BIGO, 14% BIGO requests for services denied due to limited capacity. This also includes that somebody might call up and say, I need a ride for 3 o'clock today. And we say, well, we only have 2, or maybe we only have 3:30. And the rider says, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. So we do try to negotiate a trip time, but if we're not able to supply that trip, it would go here in our denials. And then the other metric and what we track is the rides that we give through our BCare service, which is the service that's for individuals that have a disability that prevent them from being able to ride the fixed routes. So this is governed by the American with Disabilities Act. And it is a phenomenal service. It is also free of charge here in Butler County right now. And we provided almost 29,000 rides last year to elderly and individuals with disabilities.
You want to pause for any questions, Shawn?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I can't see my screen, so I apologize. Yes. Are there any questions or anything that, any clarification needed yet?
I have a question. It's Gina from Land of Illusion. For the one that you just touched on for disabled, someone that can't, do maybe the BIGO, how do you get in touch with that system, like that part of this whole pie?
Fantastic. Well, one, you can call us, right? We have customer service available. There is an application that has to be filled out, Gina. It's available on our website.
Okay.
It is, you fill out the application. There's a portion for the writer to fill out. There's a clinical portion that needs to be filled out, and then it gets mailed in and goes through processing. Once services are, once you're eligible for ADA services, you are good for 5 years. So every 5 years, we'll send you out a letter saying, you know, you need time to renew. But it's a very easy process. It's like I said, you only have to recertify every 5 years.
And where would I find that form on your website?
I'm so sorry, say that again.
Where would I find that form on your website? Which tab?
Under there's services and then accessibility.
Ah, got it. Thank you.
Care.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Please reach out with any questions.
Okay, absolutely.
Great. Is there any other questions before we move on to major projects?
Well, one of the other things I wanted to mention, the cool thing about the Vigo service and the ADA is you can certainly call us, but just like Uber and Lyft, there's an app out there in the App Store for both Android and Apple devices. You can schedule a ride without talking to anybody. The app works pretty well. It's ADA friendly, screen reader friendly. We have probably about half of the population who uses the service books or pays in one of the apps, Shawn. Right?
Yes, that is correct. And also, too, while we're on the conversation of ADA services, we do offer free travel training. That's another service that a lot of people are not aware of. It is eligible, anybody who is interested in learning the system, fixed routes, B-Care, paratransit, BGO, whatever the case may be, we do offer free travel training. So we can meet with individuals and help them navigate the system.
When's the customer service center open, Shawn? When do they take phone calls?
Customer service is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And they will get you in touch with the right person.
Shawn, I know for like Uber and Lyft, it's possible for an organization to buy into that and to pay and purchase it on behalf of clientele. Is that something that you guys have available?
That's a great question. What we did have it available. There were some changes in the FTA policies that made it impossible. I guess I'm trying to figure out the word for us to be able to continue to use federal funding to subsidize any sort of Uber or Lyft trips. On a side note, and I can email you this, Tracy, when we hang up. We do have a nonprofit and we do have some unrestricted dollars available there that could be a potential option.
So maybe I probably didn't word it the best way I could have, but I wasn't thinking about subsidizing Uber or Lyft. I was just using those as examples of how an organization can pay for other people to get that ride. Is that something that we can do through your app?
My apologies. Absolutely.
That's okay.
Yep, we do have partners, which we can bill. We can set you up on billing terms, and you can purchase trips on behalf of your constituents. Yes, okay. Is that answering the question correctly?
Yeah, good to know.
We did have some Uber services out there, so that's what I thought you were referencing at one time. Yeah.
Thanks.
We're working on setting up. We have a pretty advanced mobile ticketing platform that has a portal for partners to get in and to issue tickets directly to your constituents, and then we just bill you at the end of the month. It went through a little rebuild recently, and so we're working with our provider on that to get that out to the community, because we'd love to be able to put that in the hands of employers or agencies so that you can just put tickets directly in the hands of your riders. When we sold paper tickets back in the day, we had a lot of agencies who would kind of meter those out to their constituents or folks. And we expect to be able to do the same thing with this electronic platform and eliminate a lot of inventory management and complications. So it's coming, but Shawn is the point person for that. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely get in touch with her.
We're getting there. Yes. All right, those are great questions. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so on to major projects. So, like I said before, we are governed by a 9-member board of trustees. And so in 2023, they laid out a very strategic plan for us. So it covers the course of 3 years of what our goals are to advance our services to meet the needs of the community. So goal number one is to increase education and advocacy. So that's why we're here today. So thank you again for jumping on and listening to what we have to say. We are expanding our reach. We're on our educational tour. We're looking for civic groups, agencies, organizations, businesses, anybody who's interested that want to hear about BCRT and the things that we can do. We're available to speak, and to do that, you can reach out to me. There's a speaker form on our website, but we are definitely trying to expand our reach and get out into the community more to talk about our services. Number two is a big win. It's to enhance revenues. When we talked a little bit about funding before, I didn't mention, but it'll be coming up. We do not receive any local funding. So we don't get money from property taxes. We don't get money from commissioners. We do not have sales tax. The majority of our larger agencies around us, when you think of Cincinnati Metro or Greater Dayton, they all have a sales tax, which goes towards their operating services, which makes a huge impact. We have disruptive technology. I kind of feel like I should let Matt talk about this a little bit. We're like, what's disruptive technology? And what does that look like? And it's like, well, I guess we will know it when we see it because it's disrupting the way that we do business now. So with that being said, we do have some things on the horizon with our new partner portal. There's some conversations around autonomous vehicles and some grants available to explore that more. So always looking for ways to improve our services. Leveraging our regional partnerships. We already touched on that a bit. We do work very closely with Cincinnati Metro and TANK, which is the Transit Authority of Northern Kentucky, in addition to OKI, which is the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Government. So lots of projects out there. Lead workforce development. Again, that's another number that we discussed and touched on. It's very important for us and to the commissioners that we are getting people to work and making sure that we have the services running at the time that people need it to be able to get to work, and adapting to market demand. And it is always changing. And so part of that is all the surveys that we have out there. We know people have survey fatigue, but that's how we learn, right? It's meetings like this. We get feedback from our constituents. It's responding to those surveys and being able to adapt to the demands of what our constituents want. So that is our a big project that's been laid out that we are working on. And then some of you might be familiar with this. This is the Chestnut Street Multimodal Facility. This is the largest infrastructure project that BCRTA has ever done. Is everybody familiar? I guess I probably won't know that if y'all just say aye. We did have a groundbreaking a year ago this past January, and right now it looks like we will hopefully have a ribbon cutting sometime in September when the facility is due to be completed. And Matt, you've worked so hard on this for the past 10 years that I will let you put in a little bit more of additional information there.
This project's been a long time in the making. We've been partnering to provide service at Miami University since 2012. And it was one of their desires when we started working together that we seek grant funds together to do big projects. And this is really the first one. It took us 10 years to get the shovels in the ground. But this is a 55,000 square foot facility that features a public portion in the front. So that's what you see here. There's bus bays and a public terminal with restrooms and public information. There's a large meeting room that'll be available for use. The middle of the building also has some of our back of house operations. So we operate out of some borrowed facilities in Oxford right now. We don't really have our own depot, so this will be our home for operations that run out of this depot. There's a large indoor parking facility for buses, which extends the life of our equipment greatly. Also make sure they leave the depot warm in the morning or cool, depending on the season. And we'll also have a maintenance facility at the very back, which you can't really see in this rendering, so that we can fix things. Right now, we move things back and forth between Oxford to our primary facility in Hamilton right now, where we have a maintenance garage where we can do a lot of our own work that isn't possible to be done up there right now. The other cool thing about this partnership is that This will act as the indoor waiting terminal for the Amtrak platform. I know Hamtrak and Hamilton gets a lot of attention right now, but we've been talking with the Amtrak folks about a stop on the Cardinal line in Oxford since probably 2014. As you can see, you don't see a platform in this picture because as we're looking at this, the platform is actually kind of behind us and to our left. So it is a separate facility that the city will be constructing. But we've worked very closely together to coordinate the lighting and the look and the fixtures and the signage. We'll have real-time information for Amtrak inside our facility. So it's been a really good partnership with a bunch of different folks. There is a large amount of federal funding in here. It's a large amount of BCRTA's local money. Our other financial partners, Miami University, who has about $1.6 million in this facility. When we're all said and done, we're probably going to be around the $25 million mark after we get it all furnished and finish paying the architects and get everything done. So it is, as Shawn said, the largest infrastructure project we've taken on in our history. But we are getting close to the finish line. I also think it's a good model. Like I said, we've been talking to folks in Hamilton about a potential station. This is on Amtrak's Cardinal line, which already operates between Chicago and New York. Obviously, Hamilton's in a little bit different position that they could be on the Cardinal and also the 3C and D, which isn't an option up in Oxford. But this funding and facility model might be something that could be copied in the Hamilton area. So, something to talk about. But any questions about this project? This is kind of a cool one, but I'm happy to answer anything if there's anything about this one.
I'm looking to see if anyone submitted anything in the chat or any videos. I think everyone's good. This is a beautiful facility.
It'll be really cool when it opens. There will be a large grand opening party, as Shawn said, probably in September. It's our goal to have it open for school this fall when the students come back. As part of that, we're redesigning the entire network in Oxford, the route network. So if you spend any time up there, especially on social media, you're probably going to get peppered with notifications to take another survey, as Shawn points out, for feedback. We're making the final tweaks to the way the routes will change, but obviously having infrastructure like this allows us to operate more inbound, outbound routes since we kind of have a central location now. So that's exciting too. Service should improve and look better as well.
And I don't know how far out we are, but another idea is potentially that there would be a Greyhound is an option. There's also
we're already talking to the interlining folks at ODOT.
Yeah. So yes, so it's going to be an exciting place. Okay, so on to funding. So how is BCRTA funded? Like I said before, we don't have any local funding through a sales tax, property tax, or anything like that. So 64% of our dollars comes from the FTA. And again, this is definitely more in line with Matt having the information, but it's a formula funding. It's based on our population. It is set dollars that we get for operating. We do have partnerships. Miami University, that is a contracted service. They do pay for that in full to operate that service. We have contracted fares. That's where the Butler County Veterans Service Commission would come from. That contract, and then of course we do the city of Middletown.
Yeah, I do want to. This one, it looks rather stark. This was based on our 2024 budget. So state, local, and agency funding are all zeros. We do get about, depending on the year, somewhere between 3 and 12 cents on the dollar from the state. We did get a little bit of money from them in 2024, but it ended up in our capital budget rather than our operating budget, which is why you see the zero here. But as Shawn points out, and I will reiterate, we do not receive any local funding. There's no general revenue fund money coming in from the county or any of the municipalities. We do get a small piece of, like Shawn mentioned, there's some federal block grant money that the county and the city of Hamilton control that they pass through. Our budget for 24, I want to say, was around $10 million. We don't actually have the number on here. I can tell you the block grant money that came through was less than $50,000. So, there's not the zeros are pretty representative. Maybe a point something after them if we counted the CDBG, but a lot of people, I think, because we have Butler County in the name, believe that we get local funding and we don't get anything.
Are there any questions?
Any questions? Nothing in the chat and nothing on video right now.
Okay. So where do we spend our money? The next big question. Wages and salaries, right? We need to pay to have services on the road. The majority of that goes to our vehicle operators. We currently now, I think for the first time, at least in the 7 years that I have been part of BCRTA, can say that we are almost fully staffed with vehicle operators. We were, gosh, sitting around what, between 88 and like 90 for a long time, and now we're up to 140. So that has significantly helped us keep up with the Vigo demand. Now we're looking to procure more vehicles. We have drivers, now we need vehicles. But wages and salaries is the biggest portion of where our dollars go to, is getting those services out onto the road.
Yeah. Remember,
And
we're a
if you want to
service
add,
organization. I know a lot of times when, particularly with chambers, when manufacturers and people who build stuff see stuff like this, sometimes they get a little bit of sticker shock. But we don't, we don't build widgets or anything, so we don't have any, manufacturing or product costs or anything, obviously. And as government nonprofit, we're, there's nobody making money here either. So the largest portion of our money goes into putting that service on the road. That's why you see such a large portion in wages, salaries, and benefits. We actually run a very skinny overhead, especially compared to a lot of our peers. I think Shawn's probably going to share some information about efficiency, but we're very proud of our efficiency and our limited overhead. We try to take most of our dollars and make sure that they hit the road and that they're getting people where they need to go, because that is our primary mission.
All right, so like Matt said, we have a little bit of a peer analysis here, and we look at other agencies in the state that are comparable to us in terms of area that we serve, population that we serve, and how we compare. So 4 of our closest peers, I don't know if anybody is familiar with these counties, but they're, like I said, all ones that are similar in population, similar in service area. So lowest cost per trip, we are number 1. So we are very efficient with our overhead. We, again, this is definitely, Matt's area of expertise in how we spend our money and how efficient we are and where we put our dollars to make sure it is going to the public and to serving our community. Trips per hour, our efficiency, we are second. And so as you can see, when you're looking at other areas here, we are very efficient to how many trips that we provide per hour, services that we have on, the number of hours that we have on the road, and to the riders that use our service. And then trips per capita, we sit at number 3. Matt, I'll let you explain this one a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's basically, it's a ratio of how many people or your population you're serving. So, how many people, as a proportion of the total population are we serving? We're lower than Portage and Stark, and that's primarily because we just don't have as much geographic coverage. All of these peers have something very similar to us. I think Stark County, if you're familiar with Canton, Football Hall of Fame, we love to benchmark against them because they share the most characteristics with us that are similar. I think their big difference is that Canton is their county seat is it's not central geographically, but it's central population wise, whereas Butler County is very spread out between a couple of cities and townships. Hamilton isn't necessarily our biggest population center. So they're a good comp for us, and they're similar in size, but they also have a much larger budget. They do have a local county sales tax that helps to fund transit service. So they have a lot more dollars to put a lot more service on the road, which is why they're doing better. Portage County is smaller geographically. And ironically, Lake and Delaware are much smaller geographically than us. So I think it's interesting, or maybe good for us, that we're doing better than they are. is the amount of service we put on the road. We're probably more similar to Portage County, which is why you saw on the other two slides we're in a pretty close neck and neck battle with them for the top slots on those other two. This is 2022 data. I gotta go back, and we just got 2023 data a couple of weeks ago from the Federal Transit Administration. So we'll recrunch the numbers and take a look again and make sure we're still winning.
Are there any questions? No? The forecast, our future forecast. So here's part of our education is where we are and where we're going and what's going to happen. So right now our operating budget sits around 10 million, which you can see right here on this burgundy reddish colored line. And it just shows how it goes up. This just accounts for inflation. This is any sort of growth or any sort of expectations, just the natural, cost of doing business. And then here you can see in 2024, if we're looking at this orange line, that takes this major dip. This is our cash on hand and investments balance. And then the yellow line shows our gain loss before local capital change. So you can see here, if you're looking at the arrows, and you see right here where these two lines cross, this is where our expenditures are going to increase, are going to outpace the money that we bring in. So I don't know if anybody is familiar with the term, but we're calling it a fiscal cliff. And we're going to hit that somewhere around 2020.
It'll be where those arrows are. So we're going to start being budget negative probably in 26, 27, where you see the yellow arrow, and the orange arrow is where we clean out the piggy bank. So when, sometime between 27 and 28, and this is if we keep doing what we're doing and we make no changes. Obviously, that's not the intent of our agency or our board. But you saw enhanced revenues in the strategic plan. The board has an aggressive plan to grow services. They'd like to be able to do more. Shawn talked about how we're not meeting demand on the BEGO service. We're turning people away. I mentioned how we don't have, amazing geographic coverage like some of our peers. They want to do more, but based on the funding we have today, we're actually going to have to reduce service by about $3 million a year in order to live within our means. And that's just a function of we got an injection of cash from some of the pandemic funds, which helped to keep us running when there was a national bus driver shortage. We had to raise wages over 20% from beginning of pandemic to end just to retain our workforce. Believe it or not, before pandemic, we had no group health insurance. I don't know if any of you have ever worked for a company who doesn't have group health insurance. I don't know if you thought of them as thrifty or cheap if you ever did that. We can argue about that another time. But again, in the labor climate we were in, that just wasn't an option. So in the past 5 years, we also had to bring on group health benefits to make sure that we maintain the workforce and we can provide the services we're committed to. So unfortunately, expenses have grown quite a bit, which I'm not sure is a shock to anybody. That's been true across the board, but it is something we're going to have to deal with. So I think is the next slide talks about that, Shawn. Yeah. So
it does. Yes.
Yeah, just to maintain the status quo as far as service goes. I mentioned we'd have to reduce services, which probably is most of our general public stuff that's all subsidized and doesn't have some type of a revenue partner. Obviously, our Miami University service wouldn't be affected. Our veteran service wouldn't be affected. Those are all paid for with some partners. But everything that we leverage federal dollars to pay for that we're required to make a local match. If you're familiar with the feds supporting services, they never give you money for free. You always have to match it. When we buy stuff or things, they'll bring 80% of the cost to the party, up to a certain amount, obviously. And if we want to pay services or pay for operating costs, they'll only bring 50%. We have to bring the other 50%. So in order to live within our means, so to speak, if nothing changes in the next couple of years, we'll have to reduce our annual operating budget by almost $3 million a year, just to try and maintain some of the things that are going on. But it would require a significant cut to some public services. I think the other thing to mention there too is, there's lots of discretionary programs, or at least there have been traditionally, where you can compete nationally for capital funds to build bus stations, or bus and train stations, or facilities and infrastructure that the communities benefit from. But you need to have those local dollars to match those programs too. And when you're competing, the more match you have, the better you do in the competition. So not having any local match is also going to significantly reduce our ability to be competitive at a national level to bring, dollars that are already appropriated for transit to our local economy. So stuff to think about.
Yeah. So here's some possible outcomes when we talk about finding a sustainable revenue. We would not have to reduce, depending upon what happens, any of our existing services. And the big thing we want to point out to that is that when we eliminate the R routes, we eliminate a huge portion of our paratransit and B-care service area. So that's a big hit. Getting rid of BGO altogether, like you saw, like 25,000 trips were done last year, just getting people to work via BGO, and so that would no longer be an option. So potential to address unmet demand. That's always the goal, right? To grow our services, to be in more places, to be able to assist more people. And with that, we expand services for job access. We would expand services for the disabled and disadvantaged communities. We would have additional dollars to leverage for federal capital. Expanded capability to assist local jurisdictions with county and transportation needs. So I feel like that comes like JFS, Jobs and Family Services, things like that. Stronger engagement with businesses to bring in. I know we hear, somewhat frequently that companies coming in want to know, especially when you're looking at the large distribution centers, where's the closest bus line? So, that is definitely a draw because they want to make sure that they can get employees to work. Job training, and then the capability to invest in infrastructure like the intermodal facility, like what we have going on in Oxford.
I will say, as part of the strategic plan that the board put together, our staff and in concert with some of our outside consultants has put together a really great plan for expanding services and providing additional things. We haven't been talking about it a lot because we don't have a way to pay for it yet. So we're trying to get there. But if that's ever a presentation anybody's interested in, or that's something you want to talk about, obviously that's information we can share as well. We knew we had a time limit today, so we're trying to get to the big stuff. But lots of opportunities. And just to give some perspective, I tell people, I mentioned earlier, we compare ourselves to Stark County a lot because they're very similar in size to us geographically as well as population. Their spread of demographics looks very similar from, socioeconomic stats, what's the general income of the average resident, how many elderly and disabled folks live in the community, how many people do or don't own cars, how many kids who can't drive live in those areas. We look very much like them. I told you we spent about $10 million on public transit in Butler County last year. And if any of you have heard me talk before, you probably heard me say how much Stark County spends on public transit in a year. Does anybody want to hazard a guess?
I don't want to cheat. Do I say, right. Are there any guests? Jason, anybody put anything in the chat? Okay.
Okay, I have a question. And this
Sure.
is probably one you can't answer, so I apologize for that. But what do we have to do, and are there any things in the works to begin to educate people that public transit is an option, not just for people who don't have cars, but could be a viable option, or we could change that mindset?
Yeah. Well, that's part of what we're out doing right now. For the record, Stark County spends about 3 times as much as we do. They spend about over $30 million. But we are, Shawn mentioned, we're looking for opportunities to speak to people right now. So I would say if you have a civic group or anybody that we could talk to, that would be step one. We are trying to get out and answer questions and provide information. I will tell you on a parallel track, our board is looking at what they can do to raise that revenue and what we need to do. I think there will probably be some political hurdles to that. And some of that is going to be reaching out to local legislators and letting them know what people want. We are not allowed to advocate one way or another for a solution. But a lot of times when we have decision makers who are trying to decide whether they want to invest or divest, they want to hear from their constituents. They don't want us in their office telling them about how great transit is. They want to hear about the people who elect them into office about what it is they want. They'd much rather listen to constituents than us. So I think that's probably the other piece of it is people, talking to their constituents or being around these conversations to provide that kind of information when we're there, to provide it and to give that feedback on whether this is the kind of thing people want in their community, because that matters.
So there's a transportation day in Columbus next week. And my understanding is all the legislators will be available for individual meetings. So I guess what you're saying is that it'd be a good time for people like me to say you really need to fund public transit in our county.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we were in Columbus, what, 2 weeks ago, Shawn? And so we made the rounds and talked to everybody because it's transportation budget season, right? So yes, and so that's a big piece of it. Like I said, we get about 3 to 7 cents on the dollar from the state level. I would say even more important is probably locally. So at the commissioners, at your city council, your township trustees, letting them know. Because I would imagine the next couple of years we may be making an ask locally, and those are really the people that it's probably going to matter to. I also expect with the new administration and things that are happening at the federal and state level that there's going to be more expectation on local jurisdictions to fund their programs. That's just what my crystal ball looks like. But and because you saw the zeros on the budget, right? We don't have a lot of local skin in the game, so to speak. So I think that's probably where our biggest hurdle is going to be and where we're going to need to be looking the most.
I mean, it is frustrating, and I know Tracy's on here. It is frustrating, from my perspective, and I won't mention any names, but it is frustrating when, we have city officials and elected officials who are, all in on workforce development, but have no value for transportation at all. So it's like, let them drive their cars. So, and I'm just trying to figure out how we, at some point, get past that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's part of hearing from people and stories. I mean, we're going to be, Shawn is already working to gather testimonials and things from riders, because those do make a lot of impact with those folks. But you're right, where that's part of the education we're doing is bridging that gap that everybody can't drive or own a car. Sometimes people can afford a car or an apartment, but a lot of times not both. And so how do we deal with that? I also tell people all the time, what we do is only half of the problem. The other half is zoning policy. It's where people choose to build their residences and how walkable they make their neighborhoods. That has a huge impact on how long it takes the bus to do its work and where the bus can get, and how, where it's easy to walk to the bus stop. Those things make a huge difference in what we do. So, that's another place to talk to people too. So I see a question, Shawn.
Oh, let's see here. I don't see the whole question.
All right. There's one about how can you bring a guest to ride with you on BeGo? And
oh, okay, hold on. There's a couple here. My apologies. Just fill out the application. Can we schedule through the App Store? So yes, I think Matt hit on that. The ADA services, there is an app. You can schedule it anytime through the app for the Be Care. You can book up to 2 weeks in advance, all the way up to on demand in the moment. So the next question, let's see here. Hamilton Chamber said just downloaded the BeGo app. Are we able to have a guest ride with us, and does each person pay $5 or just the person who booked the car? It's $5 per person. Anybody 12 and over is able to ride independently and therefore is charged for a seat. Under the age of 12, they would be free with their guardian.
what about a personal care attendant?
So that's for our Bee Care services. So if you are an individual that has a disability who uses our Bee Care services, it's a free service to begin with. And then so if you had a personal care attendant, they obviously would ride along with you at no charge. So when booking that trip, you would just need to indicate that you have somebody with you, as it is a shared ride service, so they would need to know there's an extra body in the vehicle. Let's see, Cindy had a question. It says, I don't see anything in your slides about the rider satisfaction experience. In other parts of the country, it can be risky to take public transportation. So that's definitely a stereotype that I think needs to be debunked, overcome for sure. People do think that public transit is risky, and that is definitely not the case. It's not any riskier than anything else you do on a daily basis. Our drivers they go through extensive training. They are, CPR trained, they're safety sensitive, they have direct access to dispatch. It is a very safe way to get around. You are,
I would also say
clean.
there is we do an annual customer satisfaction survey. That is actually, is it out right now,
It's
Shawn,
out
or
right
did it just
now,
close?
yes.
Yeah. So it's out right now. Obviously, you don't see that on social media because it goes, we push it on the bus, so we're talking to riders for feedback, and it does ask about safety and cleanliness and those things. I would say we as a system generally get above average marks. Um, I think we surprise a lot of people on how clean our system is. I would encourage you, if you haven't ridden, to go ride. If you're concerned about how to do it, then connect with Shawn and the travel training services. They're happy. They will meet you at the bus stop and show you how to go out and ride. Shawn mentioned they're all connected to dispatch, but we are part of the county radio system. So that also means we're directly connected to all emergency services. All of our vehicles have multiple cameras on them. They are, I'll talk about a product that pays for itself. We just have particularly here, I mean, the risk is just, it's super low. So like I said, I would encourage you to try it out if you haven't. There's always work to do for sure, but I think we generally exceed expectations there. Oh, Dan asked, is there any consideration for levy or assessment funding? Is that a possibility if the community would get behind it, like road repair, libraries, or other levy-funded services? Yes, I think that is probably the low-hanging fruit in some respects. A sales tax is generally how most transit agencies in Ohio are funded. It is transit agencies or RTAs in particular. RTAs are mentioned in the Ohio Revised Code. We're a political subdivision of the state of Ohio, much like a city or a township. Our board is allowed to vote to put a ballot initiative on, and they can walk it right over to the Board of Elections and put it on. We don't run through the commissioner's office like a lot of social service agencies or anything. That said, we don't want to get ahead of our local elected officials. We want them to be, on board with our plans and what's going on, and we don't want to be competing with other agencies who have priorities that need funded. But 2/10 or a quarter of a cent would still leave Butler County in a very competitive position as far as sales tax regionally, and would make a huge impact on what we would be able to do as far as coverage and meeting the demands that are presently unmet, and having, local funding to be able to put into infrastructure projects and things like that. That would be a big thing. And I think, that is certainly one of the possibilities the board is looking at. It is, I call it low-hanging fruit because it's probably the one that raises the amount of money needed in the simplest fashion. But I would never call passing a ballot initiative, particularly for a tax in Butler County, easy or low-hanging fruit. So,
No, but it is the kinds of things that, the chamber or a committee could get behind to help push that. That's how, it was a committee of volunteers that got the, pothole levy passed, for lack of a better term.
yes.
So I'm just thinking because, it's a shame we can't move forward with this transportation issue, to me.
Yeah.
And it's,
Well,
to me, it's not just about people who have to make financial choices. It's a new mindset of, the reason young people are moving to walkable communities is because a lot of them don't want to drive, and I think that there's going to come a time where we're going to actually impede Butler County's economic growth because we're behind the times on transportation options.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think, as I said, as public employees, we are not permitted to advocate in any fashion or, take a position on that. So I want to be very clear about that. If that is something you're interested in, what I would say is, as you mentioned, Dan, there are committees and groups who advocate for one position or another. If that's something you're interested in, then you can generally find those people out in the Facebook world, places like that. I suspect we probably have supporters out there somewhere. But we'll be as we look at what we need to do, I think you're right. We'll be doing a lot of education about what will happen one way or another. But we as staff, like I said, we cannot advocate for one position or another. So
And that's why I brought it up, because I know with the streets levy, which I was part of that committee, the city couldn't be involved at all, much in the same position you're in. But they could provide us with the information and, the data and all that kind of stuff that we needed to make that a compelling campaign. And, it didn't pass by a lot, but it passed, so after a couple of years of very hard work and a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is part of just a little bit on the marketing campaign. We are a smaller agency. We don't have any in-house marketing, so we do contract that out. The dollars that we've had in the past have all gone towards recruitment. So we are finally in a position now where we can take those dollars and use that towards educating the community about our services. So we're hopefully, going to see a significant increase in awareness and a significant increase in ridership.
And I'm not, hopefully, I'm not being critical. I'm just like thinking out loud of how we can, move this forward into the future at some point.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Laura, do you see anything on the Facebook Live by chance?
Nope, we don't have any questions there.
Okay.
So
my last thing, Shawn, can you share this presentation with us?
Absolutely. Actually, Jason has it. So if you need it again, let me know. And then if anybody is interested in sharing this information or have groups or agencies or organizations that would be interested, to please reach out and let us know. We can get something on the calendar.
What I'll do is I will email all of the attendees today the copy of the presentation. It's got Matthew's contact information. Shawn, do you want me to include yours as well?
That would be great.
Sure. And I just want to affirm too, I was on the website throughout the presentation. The website is very user-friendly, intuitive. A lot of metro areas have very convoluted websites. So this is beautiful and easy to find the information quickly.
Well, great. Thank you. And then also, we always ask for people to follow us on social media, right? Because that just broadens our reach there too. We consistently post on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So anybody who wants to follow us, we would certainly appreciate that. And not to mention, that's where all the things that we're doing, that's where it goes first, right? That's the first place that people see it. So
I'll also put a plug in. The website's great, but we are also, all of our information is fed to Google Maps. If you're ever used to using that, click on the bus, or it looks like a train actually, instead of the car. You'll get transit directions. It'll tells you exactly where to walk, when to get on the bus, when to get off, how many stops to ride past. And if you want an app for that, the transit app is a great tool who also gets all of our real-time information. They will tell you how crowded the bus is when it's on the way to you. They have access to our sensors on board. They know if the bus is running late or not. We push information out about delays. So all of those free fixed routes, and even CincyLink, you can pick up in the transit app. I think it's like the #2 navigation app in the app stores behind Google. And you can use it nationally too. It's not just here. It's They syndicate feeds from all over the country, so it's great for traveling with too. But
Awesome.
my last plug.
Well, thank you. Shawn and Matthew, thank you so much for all the time and beautiful information that you put into this document. This was very, very fascinating. For those that would like to get more involved with our Chamber of Commerce, I want to let you know we do have a Chamber Connect coming later tonight. Laura, is it at 3:30?
3:45 to 5 p.m. this afternoon.
Thank you. And that is a great way. We do this quarterly. It's a great way to understand what our chamber is all about, who to get connected with, a great way to get to know our new members and our long-standing members as well. Also, February 26th, tomorrow, we're doing the second part in our three-part series, our HR Roundtable series, all about generational divides in the workforce. I had the pleasure of watching the first part, and that was truly eye-opening. So if you have a chance, please check that out. You can head to our website, hamilton-ohio.com, for more information. Our next Coffee and Conversation is going to be with One Stop Pest Control. They're doing a virtual summer pests uncovered, all about ants, termites, and mosquitoes. You don't want to miss that. Then we're going to be doing our networking leads. Oh, that's going to be on March 11th, I should say, March 11th. On March 18th, we're doing a networking leads at Psychopack, and they are providing the food for this specific networking lunch. Yeah, so everyone, if you have any questions, you can always email me at jason@hamilton-ohio.com. Shawn, Matthew, thank you so much again. Everyone, have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.